Hey, what's up, everyone? Um, you're stuck with me this afternoon. Um, Jaws is not feeling great, to put it lightly. So I had to cover for him for this noon stream. He told me to tell you guys he will still do the members stream. I'm hoping that remains the case. How is everyone doing? Apparently, Collins says Bennett is good to go tonight. Lundell is probable, but no Martian. So, best case scenario, we have Bennett and Lundell back. Tonight's game is on TNT, and the Cats will wear the Winter Classic uniforms for the last time this season. That was also the last time the Cats won a home game was with the Winter Classic uniforms on. Maybe we need to wear the Winter Classic uniforms at home for the rest of the season. We'll be undefeated at home. Bob in net tonight. Mythical Riz says we are 11 points out. Need a win to at least stop the bleeding and keep it within 10. Colin says Jones on the ice. Jones on the ice after morning skates, not in full gear, but is skating. Bob is apparently 3-8 in his last 11 games, and Tarasov is 6-5. So, yeah, 10 players going to the Olympics now. 10 players, and if we were healthy, it would have been 12. It's ridiculous. Bennett was chosen as a replacement for Sorelli on Team Canada. Real Cinema says if Marchand is still out, how the heck is he okay for the Olympics? Because probably he'd have to be completely incapacitated in order to not go to the Olympics. That seems to be the trend. So, did I read correctly that the Sabres beats, no, excuse me, the Lightning beats the Sabres, but still allowed a point? Do I dare even look at the current NHL standings? Only to find what a shock. The Panthers are in last place in the Eastern Conference, a full 2 points behind the Sens now, and a whole 4 points behind those damn Maple Leafs. We literally would be the worst team in the conference right now if it weren't for the Devils, who are the only team who have come close to injured as us, and the Rangers, who are just in another level of misery entirely. So it gets even worse when you realize that not only are the Sens ahead of us by 2 points, we are actually below the Flyers now by a point, and the Capitals, Maple Leafs, and Blue Jackets all have 4 points on us now. And that's not even counting the fact that we are 9 points now out of a wild card spot. In fact, right now, Boston has the regulation wins tiebreaker against us. Shine says, what is the stat for the all-time man games lost for a season? I don't know if the Panthers are even the team this season with the most man games lost. I thought it was the Devils. Real Cinema says, like I posted yesterday, most athletes that go to international competitions care more about playing for country than club. It is what it is. Chucky even said Four Nations was bigger than the Stanley Cup. So yeah, this is torture. The Sabres, Red Wings, and Lightning all have at least 70 points. You can add Montreal to that list. The Bruins are at 68 points. And we are a Devils team and Rangers team separated from last place in the entire conference. Meanwhile, in the West, no one wants that third place in the Pacific spot. Now it's the Anaheim Ducks, and your wild card teams are the Mammoth and Kraken, with the Kings 1 point out and the Sharks and Preds both 2 points out, or excuse me, 3 points out. I tell you what, I would not have anticipated the Preds being closer to a wild card spot at this point in the season than the Blackhawks, or especially the Jets. The Canucks remain far and away the worst team in the league. The Flames and Blues are hardly better. Burned Oil says, damn, Jaws looks different today. Yeah, he's questionable with a upper body illness. I will have to up my vitamin B and C intake to make sure I don't catch the head cold that he does. David says, in all honesty, the last couple weeks we've played like a last place team. No consistency, blowing leads, looking slow, just too many injuries. Yeah. A defending Stanley Cup champion should not be failing to win at home in almost a month. In fact, let me take a look at that. Has it been? It's been practically a month already. That game where we won against the Avalanche and a literal month since we won at home. Now, granted, most of this past month was on the road, but that's still not good. Yeah, two-time defending champs. Hello, Run with Keens. How you doing? Good morning to you too, or good afternoon, or good evening, or good nights, depending on where you are. Ooh. So let's see. At this point, the only thing that truly matters is Panthers winning to have any hope of keeping the season alive. But tonight we have to root for, drumroll, Chicago against Columbus, Winnipeg against Montreal, Utah versus Detroit. And that is actually it. Those are the only three other Eastern Conference teams playing tonight. So yeah, go Blackhawks, Jets, and Mammoth. And cross your fingers and pray. Burned Oil says as Paul Maurice makes adjustments and the guys get comfortable with Chucky being back, it's very possible we get going good, but we may not be able to make up the point difference at this point. Yeah, I mean, crazier. I think crazier comebacks have happened. Yeah, we still need a bunch of teams to lose that haven't been losing, and when they do lose, they get overtime points. Habs. Hell, the Sabres just got an overtime point. I see the Bruins and Canadiens both lost their most recent games. And besides them and the Sabres, every other team ahead of us in the standings is on some sort of crazy win streak. Yeah, the Bruins just lost. The Bruins lost in the shootout to the Lightning 6-5. And the Canadiens, again, they lost, but it was in overtime. It's just incredible that every single one of these teams, the only team in the East, the only team in the entire Eastern Conference that has fewer overtime losses than us is the Devils. We are unique. Every other team, even the teams right now that have at least 20 losses in the East. The Flyers, 20 losses, but 10 of them were overtime losses. The Sens, 22 losses, but 7 of those were in overtime. Capitals, 23 losses, 7 of them in overtime. Maple Leafs, 21 losses, 9 in overtime. The Blue Jackets, 20 losses, 7 in overtime. The Bruins, 20 losses, 4 of them in overtime. The Canadiens, 17 losses, and just under half of those were in overtime. Meanwhile, we're sitting there with 24 losses, and only 3 of them were in overtime and or shootout. Craig says starting tonight, Cats go on epic 18-5-4 run. Honestly, the most ludicrous part of that prediction is the 4 overtime losses when we haven't even reached 4 this entire season. Shine says you can't wait for the Habs to go out in the first round without the help of their 3-on-3 overtime. David says complaining about other teams taking advantage of overtime is same as other teams complaining about LTIR rules. Same for all teams. We just suck at getting to overtime. I don't believe I'm actually trying to complain about the other teams getting overtime points. I'm specifically complaining that the Panthers consistently fail. You know, we've had games this season where we had 2 or 3 goal leads and didn't even get a point in overtime. Which one? Wasn't there a 3-goal leads we've blown this season without even the overtime point? We just had a 2-goal leads completely blown without overtime. David says, I believe it's because we are worn down and get tired at points during games we mostly dominate. It's super frustrating. Yeah. So Bob is playing tonight, according to the reports. So I have to assume that means Tarasov is going in against the Lightning. All right, so I guess real talk here. What would it take specifically for the Panthers to be able to turn this around? I mean, we are literally last place in our own division. We're practically reaching DEFCON 1, especially if we lose to the Bruins and Lightning. That pretty much will do it for this season. There's no coming back if we fail to get any points against the Bruins and the Lightning. We are one of just, again, the only 2 teams in the entire conference with a worse goal differential than us right now are, again, the Devils and the Rangers. The Flyers are -12, and we are still worse at -13. The only other team in our division with a negative goal differential are the Maple Leafs, and they're now 4 points ahead of us. Yeah, the Leafs are on a 3-game win streak. That is correct. Yeah, we're getting to see how important Seth Jones is to our team now. It all fell off the rails basically after he got hurt. Stolars Stolars and OEL beats up an Oilers player yesterday. So Stolars joined a fight. That's pretty fun. David says, short of getting guys back, we need Chucky, Benny, Verhage, Erod, and Samo to start scoring. Not sure if you remember a team that missed the net as much as we do. And then here's the fun part, David. Three of those players out of the five you just mentioned are going to the Olympics. And they'll also be playing fiercely against each other in the case of it's Kachuk against Bennett and Verhage. Real Cinema says it figures the only tough players on the Leafs are the former Panthers. All right. Run with King says maybe Maurice needs to take Marchand's DQ away until the team starts doing better. Well, Marchand's not even supposed to be playing right now. Matthew McKinley says need one more center and at least one more defenseman in the lineup to be effective. Yeah. Well, we are going to have Bennett back, and Lundell is quote probable. So that means we'll have two centers. Shine says, why isn't Samo in the Olympics? Surely they have a need for someone who flies into the zone and loses the puck immediately or shoots directly at the goalie. Yeah. Honestly, it doesn't shock me that the Panthers would be struggling on defense right now without Barkov, without Seth Jones, without Kulikov, without even the depth like Nosik or Gadjo. What shocks me is just how completely the goal scoring has fallen off from guys like Luosterainen, Rodriguez, even Verhage. And Kachuk has pretty much done nothing in his return, aside from the 1-2 goal night and a few assists. And that sadly makes him one of the better goal scorers, at least in the past month before the losing streak. Bennett really hasn't been scoring. Reinhardt's is pretty much just he was a power play merchant, and now he's not even scoring most of the time on the man advantage. Mason, thank you very much for being a member for 14 months. And yeah, it's not looking great. It's not looking great at all. Mythical Riz says the cap goes up next year. We'll have 20 million in free cap. You don't see us overpaying Bob, and Zito will make the correct adjustments for another run next year. David says, I've decided to invest less emotionally until we get healthy. You're going to still watch, but not going to let it get to you. Until we're healthy, you'll just enjoy watching whether we win or lose. Oh, apparently I had no idea the trade deadline was today. Shoot. If I had known the trade deadline was today, I would have told Dad to forget about the noon stream and just have me do a hour stream or so around 2:30. Or there was a Petrie non-appreciation thread on Panthers Reddit. You can only take Reddit stuff so seriously. Reddit is its own highly toxic planet. See ya. Are you sure today's the NHL trade deadline? No, you're confusing it with the Olympic roster freeze, which is today at 3. So teams can choose to make trades before the Olympic roster freeze, but the actual trades deadline's not until March 6th. David says, I gotta run. Great to see you, Kyle. Hope Jaws gets the feeling better. See you tonight. Yeah. Yeah, good luck to us, right? TSN's reporting Panarin will move. Yeah. And I'm sure if my dad was coherent at the moment, he'd be begging the Panthers to be smart and not make any drastic trades for a guy like Panarin in a what appears to be a season lost under a utter cascade of injuries. I like to imagine my dad's rights where perhaps players' agents like to spread rumors that Florida is the front runner for insert player here just to garner FOMO and interest from the other teams that actually have a shot at getting him. Don't forget Pettersson, as in Elias Pettersson. Oh yeah, if you want a totally random bit of news, the LA Clippers traded James Harden to the Cleveland Cavaliers for Darius Garland and a second-round pick. I've casually heard about James Harden being a multi-time all-star player, but always failing to do anything in the playoffs. Alfred Shear says, first it came out that Florida was the front runner for Panarin, but now it's said to be a tie between Florida and Tampa. Why would Tampa want to acquire Panarin? Their team is already at the top right now. Mason says you have a class. You'll see if you can join later. The Lightning, the Lightning have taken over as the best team in the entire Eastern Conference. Clearly, whatever they're doing is working. They've won 36 games. The only reason the Hurricanes are tied with them in points is because of a couple of additional overtime losses for the Hurricanes. Oh, there's still no Braden Point and no Victor Hedman. Yeesh. No Braden Point and no Victor Hedman, and the Lightning are still dominating the East. Ugh. Mythical Riz says, I think the knack on Harden was always him being a ball hog and lacking defense. Well, I've basically seen the James Harden playoff performance.exe not found meme. Real Cinema says, sorry, quick football news. Jets hired Frank Reich for OC. Honestly, that franchise is probably forfeit for as long as Aaron Glenn remains head coach. The dude is a defensive minded head coach whose defense became the first recorded NFL defense to fail to intercept the ball once in an entire season. It hasn't happened for at least a century. And they kept him around. According to Alsford Cheer, Mercogliano says multiple teams still believe they're in the Panarin sweepstakes, with Panarin's camp hoping someone will blink and up their contract offer. If nobody ups their offer, Panarin could go to one of his top choices, Florida or Tampa, speculatively. Maybe we'll take Panarin just to spite Tampa and stop them from going all in. Ugh. The Panthers don't have any more picks to surrender, which means unless Zito is a warlock who can brainwash Chris Drury, or if Chris Drury is just that stupid, we will have to give up some kind of player and probably still draft picks. And Panarin is, let me just for pure morbid curiosity, what are Artemi Panarin's numbers this season? So Panarin, never mind the fact that he had giant he would have to brainwash Panarin to back off of that. So get this. So he has 19 goals, 38 assists, so 57 points, but he's a minus 16 right now this season. Whether that's his fault or just the Rangers being completely terrible, I guess you'd have to explain that to me. Alfred Cheers says the Leafs do not have two of their next three first-round picks. They are struggling to trade two and need to rebuild. Collins says, I don't want Panarin unless he takes way less money. You don't think Panarin comes to Florida, but he seems hell-bent on playing with Bob again? So yeah, what I'm what I'm getting at here is Artemi Panarin. Artemi Panarin is most likely. I highly doubt that Florida's going to trade for him. If he wants to go to Florida so badly, he'll probably pick the Lightning. The Lightning have plenty of cap space, right? And they also, at least according to the one Lightning fan here, they want to go all in. So their current cap space is over 3 million, but their projected cap space is in the negative. Braden Point was transferred to LTIR, but they already they changed the LTIR rules. So can someone explain to me if the Lightning would indeed have the cap space somehow, who they might have to give up if they were the ones gunning for Panarin? Collins says a fourth line of Vilmanis, Schwint, and Sam would be very good for next season. Yeah, especially if Samo figures out how to score. Mythical Riz says, wouldn't the Rangers buy out some of the contract, though? Is he on a contract right now? Forgive me for my lack of knowledge here. I've been too busy staring at the slow motion car wreck that is this current Panthers season. So right now, Panarin is on the last year of his $11.6 million contract. So he's going to be a UFA next season. But I guess what Panarin wants is, I heard something, 4 years at $12.5 million. So he wants not only an extension, but a pay raise of about $1 million. Colin says Landeskog will be playing in the Olympics. Hey, that's good for him. Landeskog. So, I guess he'll be playing for for Team Sweden then. Run with Kings believes that the LA Kings are really the only team who can actually afford Panarin. Alsford Shear says it's starting to look like the Sharks will miss the playoffs. Well, they're in a far better situation than we are. They're not dead last in their own division, mainly because the Flames and Canucks are so terrible. The Sharks are 5 points back of a top 3 spot in the Pacific, and checks notes. Let me check my notes. The Sharks are 3 points out of a playoff spot. Honestly, the teams that really do look like they'll miss the playoffs in the West are the Canucks, Blues, Flames, and also the Winnipeg Jets and Chicago Blackhawks. No team honestly hoping to make a playoff spot in the West should be 5 points behind the damn Preds, which is where the Blackhawks are right now. The Preds are actually tied with the Sharks, so that makes... And the Sharks only have tiebreaker based on games played. So honestly, the Sharks this year in the Western Conference, the top three in the Central has already been set for months. It's Avalanche, Wild, Stars, with the Wild and Stars just fighting for who gets home ice advantage in the first round. And then in the Pacific is the division that apparently no one wants to stake an actual claim in. The Golden Knights are barely hanging on to their division lead with a 5-game losing streak, and only have that because they have 2 games in hand on the Oilers, who are tied with them at 64. And then the Ducks are in the Pacific 3rd place right now. The Mammoth are at 62 points, first wild card. Kraken 61. And then Kings, Sharks, and Preds all still have a realistic chance of making it. Yeah, and we keep losing to the Blues. Run with Kings says you would rather the Kings go for Robert Thomas or Jason Robertson. Frank says you would rather trade for a defender, not Panarin, Logan, Stanley, Murphy, or if White Cloud is available. Alsford Shear says the Oilers and Knights will get such an easy round 1. I mean, don't solidify that prediction just yet. The Pacific Division remains essentially wide open. You have 6 teams. 6 teams within the Pacific that are all within 6 points of each other, and thus all within 6 points of first place in the Pacific. And none of the teams involved in that six-way affair have more than 21 regulation wins. You compare that to just compare that to the Central. No team in the Pacific has more than 21 regulation wins. In the Central, you have the Avalanche, the Stars, and the Mammoth all have at least 22 regulation wins. And then the rest of the division is, like it's crazy that the Wild and Oilers are both second in their respective division. Both have 21 regulation wins, and yet the Wild are at 76 points, and the Oilers are at 64. Run with Keen says, if we get another LA Keen versus Edmonton first round series, you're going into the mountains to chill until the playoffs are over. Hey, that's legitimate. Just out of curiosity, I wonder if anyone like Elliot Friedman is. So I guess on Twitter, expectations are that the Panarin trade gets done before the freeze this afternoon. Run with Keen says, do you think Patrick Laine will ask for a trade out of Montreal? Why would Laine do that? Montreal is in the wild card right now and have a legitimate chance at being in the top 3 of the Atlantic by the end of the season. I still believe that one of the Red Wings, Sabres, Canadians, and Bruins is an imposter. That doesn't mean the Panthers are going to make the playoffs. But for one thing, the Red Wings have been spinning the cycle of futility for a while now. The Sabres are not supposed to be this good, and the Canadians, I think, are actually good. They're a young team, sure, but Kyle has 2 more hours to stay alive for Panarin. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Dark Soldier, news is Bennett is good to go. Lundell is probable. Marchand is out. So, so yeah, how I guess the big takeaway here is Panthers don't do it. Don't actually try and trade for Panarin. Hmm. I heard Lundell is probable per Paul Maurice anyways. Run with King says you've watched a couple of videos of people talking about Line, how they think Montreal doesn't have a spot for him, and how he could ask for a trade out of Montreal. Buck Skull, where are you seeing that? So the Lightning are moving Sam O'Reilly in the first. Hmm. According to Tampa trade rumors. Well, let's see. We have what 2 hours? 2 hours until the Olympic freeze. Yeah. And my impression is that the Rangers would prefer to get this matter taken care of before they have to wait a whole month more with the whole Olympics and whatnot. Bucks Bucks Skull says sources say Panarin prefers a tax-free destination. The proposed return to the Rangers includes top prospect Sam O'Reilly in a first round pick. There's nothing concrete at the moment. Apparently, I didn't know this, but Bob Bob and Brettman are both represented by the same agents, plus they'll both be UFAs this upcoming summer. Apparently, Elliot Friedman Elliot Friedman was quoted as saying about this whole Panarin thing, I've been chasing a lot of things that turned out not to be true. There's a lot of manure flying around with that one. So it does really sound like that that the rumors are all for the purposes of potentially getting Panarin what he wants. Mythical Riz says with the playoff race so tight, you think the Rangers would get more on on the trade deadline or getting it done earlier. Well, the Rangers have already signaled their intentions to move on from Panarin quite plainly so. At this point, it's probably better just to get the deal done now. Eduardo says Jaws got a Panthers hangover. Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that actually. He says it's a head cold, but I think it might actually be overexposure to bad Panthers hockey. Yeah, he's not used to it's been a while since the team was in this dire of a strait this late in the season. It seems like we probably are not getting that precious three-peat. Woe is us, am I right? All right, so yeah, the trades right now it's the freeze. 3 o'clock this afternoon is when the freeze happens. No, I am not staying here until 3 o'clock. Not when there is a not when there's a game tonight. Hurry. Run with Keen says it will be interesting to see if the Blues keep Binnington or trade him. I really don't foresee the Blues moving on from Binnington unless they get a really, really good haul in return. Just Kachucking around says it's all over but the crying. Yeah, you got that right. Can the Panthers can the Panthers manage any points on this final stretch to close things out before the Olympics? Alsford Shear says Bennington would be great to have a good team in front of him. Goat Slayer says, hey Kyle, see you tonight. Hope you have a good day until then. Hey, thank you very much, buddy. Yeah, the Blues lost almost their entire championship team within 2 years. All right, so yeah, yeah, Tarasenko is on that Blues team. The Habs, the Habs picked up 1 point in the loss in overtime to Minnesota. Don't you know every Eastern Conference team is allowed to pick up points in overtime except for us? Do we think we could get Verhage to agree to a trade? Yeah, we're not trading Verhage. We just extended him, correct? Yeah, the East is tight this year, and aside from the Devils and Rangers, we are now at the very bottom. All right, so I think on that note, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. Thank you for joining me for this hour this afternoon. Oh, I'm Clues says Habs fan here. You hate the Panthers, but you found the channel, and as much as you dislike the Panthers, you're just good vibes. Love it. Hey, thanks. Yeah, my dad is even more entertaining than I am. He Jaws should be good to go for the member stream later, and we will both see it tonight for what's at hopefully is not a slaughter at the hands of the Bruins. Maybe the Winter Classic jerseys are the only jerseys we're allowed to wear in order to win a home game. All right, take care, everyone. See you later.